All right, what's going on, everybody? I have another awesome client success interview here for you guys with our client Karina from Quality Time Boarding and Training. So, Karina was kind enough to come join me today to talk about her experience working with Top Dog Advertising and just what it's been like, getting started with us and opening a facility and just really seeing pretty incredible growth. With that being said, Karina, do you mind just kind of telling everyone a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Absolutely. So I'm Karina. I'm a dog trainer, and I actually started this pretty late in my career. I was a corporate girl. I sat behind a computer for 20 years, and during COVID, I actually got pretty sick and tired of it. And at the time, I had a dog. His name is Sonic, and he's still with me. But he is a little terrier. And he came into our family. We already had two dogs that were great, no issues whatsoever. And so he came into our family and pretty much disrupted everything. And so I started looking for a dog trainer because I was at my wits' end. I was like, I don't know what else to do. This is not working. I need to figure out what's going on. He came to us in 2018, and so by 2019, I was looking for a dog trainer because it was just crazy. And so I found a trainer and started training my dog with this trainer and realized how much fun this actually is. And like this idea started coming in my head that, I may want to do this like for a living.
Hmm.
And I couldn't figure out, just because of what I was getting paid at my corporate job. And I was like, well, how do I do this? How can I do what I love to do? It was pretty clear within 6 months, like, this is what I want to do. And, but how can I make the numbers work? And how can I now actually, do this as my full-time job? So, on a whim, I asked the dog trainer that trained my dog with me, hey, would you train me to be a dog trainer? And he said, sure, absolutely. And so he started actually training me as a trainer and hired me as a part-timer. And so I did that for a few years while I was still doing my corporate job. And so then in probably 22 is when I had the conversation with my husband, and I said, okay, look, here's what I want to do. And he just kind of looked at me and said, okay, what's that going to mean for the numbers? Like, I'm going to be able to make this work. And I was like, I thought the entire time, well, if I'm just a dog trainer, um, by myself, I don't know if I'm going to be able to supplement what I'm making now. And so I got this idea that we would actually open a facility, would do boarding and training, and let that be our pretty much our retirement plan. So
That's awesome.
that's how the idea kind of grew. And by 2020, we had bought land. By 2024, we were trying to figure out how to make it work because we were supposed to open in 25, and then all kinds of drama happened, and but finally
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that. I remember our first initial phone call we did together, and us talking about, how far out are we realistically from like getting
mhm.
into facility?
Yeah.
And then there was a whole list of things that happened that stopped you from
Yes.
getting in. Because I kind of remember being like, "Oh, it's not going to be that long. It's going to be like a couple months." And
Oh
then
yeah,
like,
that's what we were all
yeah,
thinking. I mean, we in reality, we were supposed to open this facility in November 24.
yes, yeah.
It went an entire one more year before we were actually able to open. I mean, it was, and the drama really is not even done yet, but at this point, it's like kind of behind us at least.
Yeah, 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 for sure. But that's something I love about your story is that so many people like wait for everything to be so perfect before
Mhm.
they do anything. And I was even talking to somebody yesterday, and if there's any lawyers listening to me talk right now, they're going to be like cringing and like, I don't know, why is this guy saying this?
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to kind of get started and figure out like the legal stuff
100%.
afterwards
Yeah.
because, there's going to be like local town regulations, city regulations, county, state,
And
federal,
you
and it's
don't
like,
know everything, and you can't
yeah.
think of everything. I mean, we had thought of just about everything, and every time we turned around, it was something else.
Something new. I know. Yeah, and there's always another piece of paperwork to be filled out. There's always like a new insurance policy to be purchased. There's always something that you can like tie your time and money up in.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
what I really love about your story is like you at a certain point just said to me like we just got to do this. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna like start taking the dogs out of my house, make it
exactly.
work. It's not ideal, but then like we'll be able to transition it to the
Yeah.
facility like when that time comes.
And I was fighting it. I did not want to have dogs in my house because I had 3 dogs myself. I knew how they were. I knew this was gonna disrupt everything. My husband wasn't really crazy about the idea about having dogs, like, stashed in rooms.
Yes, yeah.
And so, so initially I just literally just did one-on-one sessions. That's all I would do. And so I would go to people's houses or whatever. But then it wasn't making the money. And I was like, well, I could take one dog as a board and train
Yeah.
house. And then before you know it, I had four,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, that's how it
um,
starts, I'll just do one,
yep,
I've heard
exactly.
that
And
before, I'll just do one, But yeah, I feel like so many people, that's like the dividing line between people who are like
Mhm.
willing to make it work at any cost necessary versus people who like in theory like the idea.
Yeah.
Because starting a business is really messy, you
Yeah,
know?
oh, it is. Yeah.
And a lot of people like we love to look at these companies, these massive corporations like
Mhm.
Amazon or Google, Microsoft, any of these companies, and look at where they are now in the iteration, or even dog training companies that are really successful now. Look at
Mhm.
like where they're at in their journey right now and be like,
Yep.
that's what I need to be successful. But never lose sight of the fact that like Apple was started in like Steve Jobs' mom's garage or something like that. You know what I mean? And so like there's always these humble beginnings for all these companies, and we have so many clients who did the same exact thing, right? Like you
Mhm.
being one of them where you're like, I just got to get started. I'm just
Yeah.
going to jump in.
Mm.
And so yeah, to anybody who's like in that situation now that you were in back in like
Mhm.
April 2020, for 2025, what is the advice you would give to that person?
Do one day at a time. Because if you think about, oh my God, what can happen in 3 months, it will keep you up at night. I mean,
Yeah.
there were nights or weeks where we were just like, what, how is this gonna work? We're not gonna make money. We're gonna have to sell everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was that bad. But if once we quit kind of worrying about, well, what is this going to be in a month? No, let's worry about what we can do right now. If I have
Yeah.
30 potential board and trains right now, okay, that gets us to right now. So then let's see what are we going to do the next month. We'll get three more, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's really, I think, the biggest thing, that and also learning to let things go when they happen. Because I mean, we had so many things, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
there was not one thing that went smoothly for us opening this facility, not one thing. And
I remember seeing you on some group coaching calls and just be like, what's going on? You're like,
I,
it's
I
another
mean, I was
thing.
going through it. I was just like, let me just hear what other people are doing. Maybe this gives me some inspiration,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But that's really the biggest thing. I mean, my husband would say, I mean, I'm like, you must be on some Xanax or something because you're way too chill for what's happening right now. I'm like, I can't do anything about it. It's gonna work itself out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. One day at a time, because it is true. Like when you look at your business, like it's like Mount Everest, and you have to hike it
Yeah,
to get to the goal you want to get to.
yeah.
But it's like just put one foot in front of the other, do what I can do today, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden, 6 months is going to pass by anyway. A year is going to pass by
Yeah,
anyway. So you might as well just spend the time chipping away at it on a daily basis, and
exactly.
before you know it, you're opening your facility, you're
Mhm.
having your best month you've ever had, like, and it all just comes together.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Well, do you mind talking a little bit more just about like, I'd love to get in like to your experience like working with us and like
Mhm.
what it was like when you first got started, and let's go back to that. So like
Okay.
what was it that, even where were you where you felt like, hey, I want to reach out to this company, I want to book a call, I want to have a conversation. Like what was the mindset you were in at that point?
So at the time, I really was not. I was the only leads I was getting was word of mouth, and which wasn't very many because people only need you when things are getting really bad. They don't think
Yes.
about it when they have a 3-month-old puppy. I mean, some do, but most don't. And so, I was only getting leads word of mouth, and I started doing the, I think it's a bark.com or something like.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. The shared lead
Yes,
website.
and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I got a couple of leads through it, and I mean, actually, got some clients through it, but not enough. It was a lot of calling, I was just like, this is not working. And so your ad kept popping up, and I was like, well, and so I didn't even realize at first that there are marketing companies specifically for dog trainers, and I was like,
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
if I get some ad agency or whatever, they don't even know what I do. So I was really like resisting the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then I think kept seeing y'all's ad, and I think there must have been like a little clip or something I saw, and I actually
Yeah.
I DM'd you, and
Yeah.
And even then, I was still fighting it. I was just like, I don't know if I want to really do this.
This random guy on the internet, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, right. And I was like, I don't know. They could be telling me anything. And so,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
after you and I talked, I was like, well, you know what? I mean, worst case, it doesn't work, and I'll just cancel the whole thing after a month.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where I was at. I mean, it was a big leap. I mean, I wrestled with that. I know I wrestled with that decision for
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
24 hours. I was like, I don't know if I do this, but
Yes.
then
Yeah.
and I think it was April last year. I think
Hmm.
April last year when we signed out with you, and then I think May was the first month. I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here? I'm like, I have dogs that I need to stash somewhere, and you know, so yeah, and then started snowballing from there. And I was like, okay. And honestly, that was one of the times we had a lot going on at the time with the
Yeah.
contractor, and it was really stressful. But this made it a little bit easier because I was like, oh, okay, I got some money coming in there, because we were
Yes.
really at
Totally.
a point where we had barely money coming in, and this contractor was just constantly telling us stories about what was happening when nothing was happening. And so
Right.
that was probably those first 3 months when we started with you guys were probably the most stressful for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
Wow.
a good time, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there's nothing more stressful in a business, to me at least, than like not knowing where your next client's going to come from,
Mhm. Yeah.
Because like you're not really in business at that point. You're just kind of like trying to like
Yeah.
figure it out. And yeah, it's just like I've been there. I know everybody who has ever started a business, like it's great to name your business and you get the logo and you have your website.
Mhm.
You're like, this is exciting. But
Yeah.
then you're like, how do I get clients?
Now what? I know.
Yeah. Yeah. What do I do? So like that's always like really, really cool when you can start getting that like
Yeah.
locked in and just like more consistent leads flowing in. So
Mhm.
do you mind talking about just like revenue numbers a little bit as far as like, yeah, what was it like before you got started with us? Like how much revenue were you doing on a monthly basis? What were like the months after that? And like where are
Yeah.
you at now?
So before it was probably a couple of grand, if that, a month. I mean, they were literally months where I got nothing, and then there would
Yeah.
be like a month where, oh, great, I signed 3 clients, and maybe that equaled to $3,000 or something. Because it was also just the one-on-ones. I was still resisting the whole board and train
Right.
concept. So I think so. April, I forget what time in April we started, but so I don't really remember that month, but May I know
Yeah.
the first month where um all of a sudden I had like 5 or 6 new clients come. Some were one-on-ones, and I think there was 1 or 2 board and trains. And then I want to say it was like maybe 6 grand or something that I made that month. I'm like, oh wow, okay, so this
Yeah.
this can work. And then it would be like a little bit up and down, but 10 would be like a really good month. So
Yeah.
10 grand a month. That means that I had at least 3 board and trains, maybe one other one-on-one
Yep.
package or something like that. And it kind of stayed around there pretty consistently from, I would say,
Hmm.
May till October. And then in November, right before Thanksgiving, is actually when we opened the facility. And so, like in October, I started booking, thinking that we were going to be open for more board and trains already. The end of October, I want to say, already was looking really good, and then November started looking like we were going to make like 15,000 $14,000. I'm like, where am I going to put all these dogs? Because we were not sure if we were going to open.
Yes.
I mean, I literally had conversations with my husband where like, we may have to convert our dining room into a kennel for like a month. And he was like, what? I'm like, I have 6 dogs coming, and I don't know if we're going to be open.
Yeah. That's a supportive husband, like, all right, whatever.
So then I think because we were able to open right before Thanksgiving. So the moment I knew we were going to be open, I started booking like crazy because I was getting the calls, and I just kept
Right.
trying to push everybody off for like, I'm full for the board and trains, but we can start. And, I would try to push them by 2 or 3 weeks. And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to just, and now I know we're open. We're going to go ahead and get them in. And so I think we ended November with like 18 grand or something. And that was the highest we'd ever made. And it
Wow.
was the first month we opened. And whew, okay, we can do this,
Yeah.
And so, and now mind you, no employees. I was it.
Hmm.
I was the person. My husband still has his day job. He would go to work. He would come here after work and help me.
I
So
love that. That's awesome.
it was literally just the two of us and my 3 dogs. And we're like, okay, we're gonna figure this out somehow.
Yeah.
Then we started booking for Christmas because now Thanksgiving was done. Now we're booking for Christmas, and I think we hit 20 in December.
Wow.
And I'm like, whew, okay, we're not where we need to be, but we're getting there. And then January was not as great, if I remember correctly. It dipped down again to like below 20.
Hmm.
February, it was a little bit below 20. March, we shot up to like 20, I think 27. We made like 27 in March. And I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
we're like only 3 grand away. Like our goal was 30. And
Yeah.
all the math that I had done was that if we get 30 grand a month, that we can pay all the bills here at the kennel without having to dip into any other savings. And we can actually take some of the money and pay our own personal bills. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was like that is our goal. So March was a great month. We were only like $1,500 away or whatever from our goal. And then April dipped down again a little bit. So I was like, okay. So I started getting worried again. I'm like, okay. So I think we again made like 24 or something. Now at this point, I had hired people. We now have, um, 3 people that rotate for night shift because I have to have somebody here at night. And I've had them since November actually, but that's not a lot of money. That was
Yeah.
just a few $100 here and there. But and you guys kept talking to me about you need to get a day person because I couldn't do evals. I wasn't really able to do anything but answer the phone and take care of dogs. And I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
it's like stressed to the max. And so everybody just kept saying, no, you need a day person. I'm like, I don't have the money for a day person. And so we are I think at the beginning of May, I moved one of my night girls to days because she was really good. Oh, she is really good. And so
Yeah.
that is when honestly immediately started seeing a change because now I went to evals again. I was able to pick up the phone more. Even just me being able to train more than what I would do with some of these dogs I've had in the last 3 months, made a big
Yeah.
difference because I wasn't so stressed and pulled in all these directions. So today's the 21st. 2 days ago, we hit 30K.
That's awesome.
And we're not even halfway through the month. Yeah, now
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think we still have a few more thousand going for this next week, and so I think we're going to be close to like 34, 30.
That's awesome. Yeah, and like we were joking about before the call, like you
Yeah.
need to just call everybody like let's hit 40,
Absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, and I'm working with a board train right now. I'm trying to figure out a payment plan for her. I'm like, it
Yes,
doesn't
yeah.
matter. Like, come on, we're gonna
Yeah, 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 we
get
gotta get to
here,
40. Yeah. No,
So
that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think, something that's really cool about this that really stands out to me is like when you're on social media, it's very easy to see these people talk about growing their business and you think it's like this
yeah,
overnight thing.
yeah.
And, I hit 20K, I hit 30K, whatever it is. And really what it takes is like persistent effort and
Mhm.
taking chances and taking on risk. And, a year later, now you're in a situation where you're profiting and you're growing the business and doing 30 to 40K a month in a month. And yeah, I just think like it's really important for people to hear this because again, like we're all so hardwired for that instant gratification and
Yeah.
seeing what
Yeah.
other people are doing that you're like, oh man, I'll never get there
Yeah.
because I've been at this for 2 months and I'm not making 20 grand a month.
Mhm. Right.
But to your point, it just is day in and day out doing the right things.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I love what you're talking about here about like getting somebody in to free you up during the daytime to be
Yeah.
able to do the other things to grow the business.
Yeah.
So do me a favor, talk a little bit more about that because I know
Mhm.
that that was something that was like a difficult decision for you to make is
Really is
bringing them
really
in during the
hard,
daytime.
and I'm still struggling with it because it's great that I have her here. I mean, it's taken so much. I couldn't be doing this interview right now if she wasn't here
Right.
because I have
Yeah.
16 dogs back there that all need to go out, and I'm like, well, it's just me. And
Yes. Yeah.
so but all I have in my head is that, yeah, but if I hire her for, even if it's just part time, she's not here, for 40 hours a week, but even if it's just part time, um, I also have to do right by them. I can't hire her and then in 3 weeks say, well, now I have no work for you. Come back in 2 weeks, because it was such an up and down. And I was just afraid that I wasn't going to be able to pay them. And
Hmm.
and there's only so much money to go around. Like, I mean, this is maybe too much information, but I mean, we literally maxed out on our savings because of what happened with this facility to the point where it was so poorly estimated by the contractor and everything that we are hundreds of thousands of dollars over what we were going to invest
Hmm.
in this. And so all the money we were going to have to pay employees and things like that is not there. And so I was always struggling because even my husband said, no, hire a day person. You can't be there 16 hours a day. And I'm like, yes, I can. And I am, but I mean, I was
Yeah.
like a walking ghost. And so, but I was so stuck on, well, what if I can't pay them? And then what?
Hmm.
And so I finally just was like, you know what? No, no, I'm going to do this. And so when I started it, even the first week, I started having her coming for days. I was not so rushed every time the phone rang. I didn't let things go to voicemail. I actually am now calling leads back, which I was
Yeah.
not a thing that I was ever able to do. If I missed the call, I missed the call.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Or even like if I talk to people and they're on the fence, 9 times out of 10, I would never call them back. Now I'm calling them back. So like one board and train that came out of nowhere yesterday is because I called her back.
Right.
And I sold her over the phone. You'd be very proud. I usually cannot sell them over the phone, but I did. And so,
That's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
so,
Yeah.
so having that time to also just kind of gather your thoughts and make it not just about in the moment, oh, I need to sell this, this board and train for $3,000, but actually have that conversation with people because I am be a personable. And when I actually listen to people and like let them talk and, I always get told after that, well, the reason we went with you is because you listened to me for 45 minutes. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you know,
You're like, I know. Trust me.
I
I
know
was the
I
one
did.
listening.
Trust me, the ticker was going. But now I
Yeah.
can do that. Now I don't feel like I have to rush people off the phone or
Mhm.
schedule that evaluation that may take 3 hours out of my day,
Yes.
you know, and being able to do it at any time of day. That was the other issue. When I was by myself, I would always just be able to say, well, my husband gets here at, let's say, 3. Okay, between 3 and 6 or 3 and 8, I can now go do an eval. Well, that didn't work for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And so now I'm just way more flexible and able to actually do that. And it shows in the numbers like almost immediately.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're perfectly describing here is like the difference between working in the business versus working on the business,
Mhm.
right? And this is something that I, struggled with for a long time as well. Is yeah, I mean, our as human beings, like our minds are hardwired to keep us safe, not make us
Mhm.
happy. And so what I always think about with that is like, yeah, I have this business right now. It's not where I want it to be. But if I go and hire this other person, that's a risk. And what if it doesn't work? And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden I'm in a bad situation. And
Yeah.
what I always think about is like, yeah, but what if it does work and it allows you to grow the business by an additional 10, 20, 30, 40 grand a month? And yeah, I mean, like you need time every single day in the business to do exactly
Mhm.
what you're describing, Karina, which
Yeah.
is like call leads and actually have the time to devote to sales appointments and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Otherwise, like the sales just don't get made,
No. Right. Yeah. I totally
Yeah.
agree. Totally agree. And I mean, as much as and I'll get there eventually where I don't have to be the one to do the sales because that's not really my favorite part, right? I want to
Yeah, but
train
you are
dogs.
good at it.
Yeah, I just
That's the
want to train
problem is you're
dogs.
good
I
at it.
like give me the dog, I'll train the dog, but
Yeah.
until that will now be my next thing that I need probably a person in the next
Mhm.
6 months or so that can
Yes.
schedule really good evals for me where I don't have to be the one taking the phone call and I'll still be the one going to the appointments. But
Oh, just like a good appointment center, just to like lock down.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, I mean, I just want to go back to something you said before, like
Mhm,
because it was so honest and truthful, and I think if anybody's being honest and truthful with themselves, they can identify with this, myself included,
mhm.
that when you're the only person who's responsible for sales, like sometimes that phone rings and you're like, I can't get it.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden 10 minute goes by, an hour goes by, a
Mhm.
day goes by, and you're like, you just never call the lead back,
Yeah.
you know? And
Mhm.
unless exactly what you said before. It's like unless I like answer that when it's coming in, it may never get returned. The phone call may never happen.
Yeah.
And so like yeah, I think you need to work towards doing exactly what you did where you like can free yourself up so you can
Mhm.
actually get the most out of your leads.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people think like, "Oh, I didn't get enough leads." It's like, dude, you have you have a whole CRM of leads.
Oh,
Like
I
you
know.
probably have leads from the past 3 months you could call,
Yep.
they probably never got dog training. So it's
Exactly.
just about having the time to actually be able to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. I mean, like over the last 2 weeks, I think I actually sat down and called people back from like a month or two ago. And
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of them were lost. I mean, they either said they found something, or we're not doing it now, which is fine.
Yeah.
We can touch them again, like in, I don't know, in a couple months or whatever. But
Yes.
at
Yeah.
least I was able to go through them, and now I'm actually able to keep up with it. Where if everybody that calls in the day the next day, I look at, did I talk to them? I actually re-listen to the conversations, make
Mhm.
my notes, and now schedule follow-ups, or then say, okay, in 2 days I'm gonna go now through my manual follow-up column, and I'll call all of them back. And so and it makes a difference.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, something I'd love to hear about, just because I want people to be able to get a ton of value from this as well. Is we were kind of joking before, saying you're like, I want to train dogs and get away from the sales, but you're actually very very good at it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you somewhat recently on one of our group calls, and we were talking about selling boarding, and I
Mhm.
was like, why don't you just like bring these people in for
Yep.
consultations, because like you close everybody.
Yep.
Do you mind talking to me about like when you get in front of people, how
Mhm.
do you conduct your consultations? Because you do a really good job getting
Yep.
people to commit.
So even though I already try to get information over the phone, just so that I know what I'm walking into. I mean, I need to know if I'm about to get bit or if it's just a puppy
Yes,
that I'm
yeah.
looking at. But I try to almost pretend like I know nothing. And I always start my consults off with, I know we talked on the phone and I know you already told me, but tell me again. And I really just want them to talk for like five,
Right.
10 minutes. And so that way I can observe and I can see what the dog is doing while they're talking. I can see how they react to the dog every time the dog is doing something. And then honestly, a lot of times it doesn't even matter what they said. I now go based off what I've saw. And I'm
Yes,
like,
yeah.
I know you were talking about you want basic obedience, not a problem. But I also noticing that Fluffy over here is like, latched onto your shoelace for the last 20 minutes of us talking. And is that what he always does? And so
Yes.
so I try to really get a feel for the dog first and foremost, and I try to understand like what's really going on, because a lot of times it's not about the obedience, and it's if it's a puppy, sure, but
Yeah.
if it's a dog that's over a year old, usually I'm like, yeah, there's something else you either don't want to say, or you don't know how to say, or you may not even be aware. So and then it's honestly just a conversation. I don't even really talk about my programs until the very end.
Yeah.
We'll just talk back and forth. I'll give them some. I usually end up telling them some story about one of my dogs or whatever, or a
Mhm.
recent dog that I had, just so that I can kind of relate to what they're going through. I
Totally.
try to be really sympathetic, especially when they feel like, they even sometimes feel like almost like they're doing something wrong and they're ashamed to say it. Like, I had a lady literally in my lobby crying because her dog had bit her daughter, and
Oh boy.
this is actually the one that I'm working on getting in for this weekend. So
She better close,
yeah, I know.
you know?
I mean,
And like,
she was literally crying in the lobby. She was here for an hour
yeah.
and a half, and the dog is a great dog when you don't bother him, in a
Right.
certain
Yeah.
way. And so for her to even just come out and say that, oh, she called animal control on herself and she didn't know what else to do. And, so at the end of all of this, she was just like, no, I think I want to try this. And now it's just a matter of the money. And so we're trying to figure out what to do with
Yeah.
that. So I think I'm able to make them feel heard, and I do bring then the value, like, here, let me show you what we would do. Let me
Right.
explain to you what we would do, because it's not all about obedience, but there's always some, and it's not all about just teaching a dog how to play, or those kind of things, but just so that they kind of feel like there is, I have an idea of what I'm talking about. And
Yeah. Totally.
even though I'd like for them to do a board and train, I do leave it up to them. I say, look, this is the one that I would recommend. Yes, it's the priciest one, and sometimes I don't recommend a board and train. If I feel like we're not gonna get anywhere with me training this dog for 2 weeks, and then he's gonna go home and you're not gonna do one thing, then
Right.
I may completely switch gears and say, well, we could do daycare training, but you need to be here for some one-on-ones or something like that. But ultimately, I'll leave it up to them. If they end up choosing a program just based on pricing, I always tell them, like, okay, we can start with this, but I want you to know that just because the daycare pricing is, let's say, 350 for 5 days, you may end up spending $2,500 on daycare training, because it's not as intensive as a board and train, and a board and train is
Right.
$100 more. You know,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so I try to kind of really lay it out, and I try to make it to where money is really not the issue. If I get the feeling that they're on the fence because they can't afford it, I immediately offer a payment plan. And
Yes. Yeah.
So I give those options, even though it means I end up taking less because of the fees or whatever. I don't make a big deal out of it. I mean, my pricing is at a point where I can discount it some and it's fine.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I feel like people can see that, they can feel that, and they appreciate that. That if you're
Yeah,
not just trying to like get them in and be like, everyone gets sold on a board and train. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like if someone's articulating to you that like, hey, it's super important to me. Like we did a board and train in the past, and I feel
yeah,
like it didn't work because I wasn't involved in the training. Would you be
yeah.
willing to do private lessons with me? And you're like, no, trust me, a board and train's gonna be better
Yeah.
just because you're trying to make the high ticket sale.
Mhm.
It's like that's what like goodwill is in the
Yeah,
business. We're giving somebody a discount to get them started. And I
exactly.
had a client say this to me the other day. The cool thing about advertising is, and I'm sure you're starting to see this as well, is in the beginning, it's like every single sale you make is going to come from the paid ads because like
Mhm.
that's your only form of client
Yeah.
acquisition. But
Mhm.
as your business grows, like every single dog that you train becomes like this potential to splinter off into like
Mhm.
five different referrals,
Yep.
and there can be,
Mhm.
I'm sure you've had people who have referred three or four other families over to you and
Yep.
stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And so I think
Mhm.
like that's how you really start seeing this immense growth in this
Yeah.
business where it's like, it's not like a straight line like this where it's just,
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
it's like more like this and then it starts shooting up because you
Mhm.
start getting to this point where yeah, it's like it's reached the point where now way more people are referring you. Everything's kind of coming together at once. But it all starts with just kind of trying to do right by the clients in the beginning and make them feel like this
Exactly.
was a good decision I made with my money. I'm not just being like hard sold
Yeah.
something that isn't even a good fit for me?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just, I always think of it this way, especially if these dogs are young dogs. I mean, I plan to be in these people's lives for the next 10 plus years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it's great. I see it with the boarding because really still most of my boarding clients are my training clients. Like if people look on my Facebook or Instagram, it's the same dogs that come here all the time, and
Mhm.
to be able to get that I think is amazing too. I mean, I love
Yeah.
when I get the phone calls from a client that I trained a year ago and they're like, hey, we need some boarding for so and so, and they don't even think about taking them anywhere else, even though they may be driving an hour. I have one client, her dog comes here at least once a month. We meet halfway because she's so far away. I'll meet her like at the river somewhere and get the dog. And it's like this is like his second home and like clockwork, he's here every month.
That's awesome.
And so that's really what I want people to get out of this because I
Yes.
did get into this to be able to make a difference. I love dogs, and I want the
Yeah.
dog to just be like happy go lucky and if I have a little piece to do with that, then
Totally.
it's
Totally. Well, you build great relationships with people, and it's very easy to talk to you. I
yeah,
know that from having known you for the past year.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I just think, something you said before is worth repeating as well. It's like people say to you all the time, "Hey, we bought from you because you listened to us."
mhm,
I'm
mhm,
sure you've heard people say to you too, like, "Hey, we just liked you the most,
yeah,
so that's why we worked with you," right? And
mhm,
it's so funny because like people want to know like the sales tactic or hack and how do I make more sales?
yeah,
And to me, it's like really take the time to go and meet with these people and
yeah,
get to know them and relate to them on a deeper level than
yep,
just like, I sell dog training. Do you want this program or this program?
right.
You know?
Yep, and don't just make it just about the dog, that's the other thing. I mean, I have had whole evaluations where we end up talking about something totally different.
Yeah.
And it all matters. Like all of a sudden, before I know it, I'm from Germany, and then somebody will go, "Oh, you're from Germany," and then I get the one sentence German that they've learned, and now we're talking about Germany for 20 minutes. And
Yes. Yeah.
but and I think the fact that then I'm not trying to rush back to okay, but now let's talk about what you're gonna buy
Exactly.
from me. That a lot of times I think makes the difference because
Yeah. I could not agree more. I mean, I've had instances like that too, where you just get on some random topic,
yeah,
a movie, a sports team, a country, a school you went to. Like it could literally be anything. The list is
hmm
endless. But yeah, I mean, people buy from people they feel like they know, like, and
yeah.
trust.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing. And so if you can develop that relationship with them where they feel like they're just talking to a friend, you're going to have such a higher likelihood of making the sale?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So and that's one thing I don't want to ever change that. I get
Yes.
busy
Yeah.
and I get rushed, but ultimately I do like talking to people and I love their dogs even more. I may not remember their name. I will always remember their dogs.
Yeah, I always love that, like, when I go into one of our clients' CRM and I'm like, Why does it all say like Fluffy or like
I
Duke or like there's
Everybody's
no
mom and
human
dad,
names in
like,
there?
everybody's mom and dad, and then I know that I
Yeah.
see a dog now that I trained 2 years ago. I'm like, "Oh, hey, Barkley," and then I'm like, "Hey, Barkley's mom." Yeah, it's just
Yeah, you're just Barkley's mom. That's what you've been reduced to, like it's fine though.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's like total like dog trainer thing. It's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
the dog's name, have no clue what the human's name is,
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so funny. Well, listen, the last question I always love to finish up with is
Mhm,
like, if you put yourself back into the shoes when you were making a couple $1,000s a month back
mhm,
in like April 2025, trying to figure out what you were going to do. If you were talking to somebody who's in that same exact situation now that you
mhm.
were in then, what is the advice that you would give to that person?
Take it one day at a time. Even if you just increase your sales by $1,000, 500, it's more. And if you keep doing that, it will keep getting more and more. And if you, it's not. I mean, it's work. It's hard work. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there were days where I'm just like, oh my god, I'm exhausted. I can't.
Yes, yeah.
But especially if you're starting off by yourself, when you have, when you're not part of like a big group of trainers or anything like that. I mean, that 10 grand a month when I was doing it out of my house, that was just me. That was
Yeah.
just me. And so it's gonna take a lot of hustle. You're gonna be really pissed off on certain days. You're gonna be really frustrated, but just don't worry about it. Let that be frustrated in a moment and then keep going and it's gonna get there. Like if you want it bad enough, you're gonna be able to make it.
Man, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I always think about with business is like, especially, looking at dog training, it's like, it's not a matter of like if, it's just a matter of how,
Yep.
And I
Mhm.
think you're really a testament to that, where it's like there were all these obstacles and you would have had all the reasons in the world to
Yeah.
just like give it up and say, like, you know what, this just wasn't meant to
Yeah.
be.
Mhm.
I'm gonna abandon ship here.
Yep.
But like when things get really tough, I know like your motto is, just like one day at a time, which I love that.
Yeah. 'Cause
But
if I would have thought about everything that could go wrong, honestly, we wouldn't have done this. We would not have this right now. I would
yeah,
still
like if you knew what it was gonna take, like
uh,
where you're at now, you'd have been like,
I would
"F
have
that,
been
I'm
I
not
would
doing
have
that."
been like,
Yeah.
"No, there's no way we can pull that off." And I would have still been behind that computer, pissed off every day at my job because don't get to
Yes.
do what I want to do. And so,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, does that motivate you? I mean, like just thinking about that job and thinking about like where you were, because I know you wanted to be done with that and
mhm,
pursue your own dreams. Like,
mhm.
do you ever think about that when you're like kind of going through it and being like, man, it can always be worse. I could be like
Oh,
back working
100%.
at another company.
100%. I'm like, because I still talk to the people that were at that company, and I'm just like, every time I talk to them, I'm so glad I don't have to, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like now, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like now, I tell my husband, like, no matter what happens, I will never be able to go back to working for a company where I'm just like a number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
it doesn't
I
work.
feel the same exact way. I
Yeah.
have some of the most amazing employees. I mean, you
Mm,
know them, our client
mhm.
success team and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I'm so blessed to have them. But yeah, I mean, I think some people are hardwired to be, really good employees and they love what they do and don't want to have to deal with the responsibility and stuff like that of
Mhm.
running a business. But me personally, I could never go back. I think I would be the worst employee. I would be like, I
I
wouldn't be
think
able
so
to do
too.
it, you know?
And I think it's one of those things like once you've tested the waters and if you even just somewhat are successful with it, you're not
Yeah.
going to go back because
Yeah.
for the longest, I mean, if you would have asked me 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would have said I'd never leave that company where I was. I was perfectly happy. I loved everybody. I loved my
Yeah.
job, but there came a point where I'm like, why am I stressed over somebody else's company?
Right.
I'd rather if I'm gonna be this stressed, I'd rather be stressed over it being my own, and so
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. And so, and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be starting off huge. That's the thing. As long as the one thing I would always just say is like the math has to math. Like, I mean, you don't want to all of a sudden like have to sell your house and all of this just because, your business is not doing what you need it to do. And yeah, then needs to be
Yeah.
a backup plan,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it doesn't
But
have.
where there's a will, there's a way. I'm sorry to cut you off
Yeah,
here. I
no,
just want
no,
to say
no,
like real
that's
quick.
exactly right. If you do this one day at a time, you'll figure it out. It's
Yes, exactly.
it's gonna get there. So,
Yeah, that's what I always think about. It's like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how. Like I heard Dana White, who's the the president, the CEO of the UFC,
mm,
talking about like people saying to him like, "Hey, I'm not sure if we can do that." Like when he wants to go and put on a fight at this arena or something like that, and he
mhm,
just says like, "Guys, it's 2026. Like anything is possible." I
yep,
mean, with the invention of AI, like you can go and I was messing around with it last night. Not to make this whole call about that, but you know like you start realizing like you go to these platforms and you ask it questions and it gives you like really helpful information or it can help you build certain things,
mm,
and it's like all of the information is out there, everything is accessible. It's just there's the gap between where you are now and where you want to be
mhm,
is just like all of the stuff that you're like questioning doing or avoiding doing,
yep,
you know what I mean?
yep, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And, there gonna be things you're gonna do you don't wanna have to do.
right.
I mean, if I never have to pick up dog poop ever again, I'll be fine.
Yes, exactly.
But the last 6 months, that was my life.
Yeah, yeah, but it's just by any means necessary and just doing what it
Exactly,
takes.
and then
Yeah.
and it feels so much better than when you've done all of that, but now all of a sudden you don't have to do that anymore because you now
Yes,
are
yeah.
able to, kinda delegate some of these things, and you can focus on what you wanna do.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and meet
Of
with me
course.
today. Do me a favor, hang on the call with me after
Okay.
here. But we're going to wrap up the recording here. But as always, I appreciate you guys listening. And I hope that you guys, I'm sure you will, get a ton of value out of Karina's story here. And just, she's an awesome dog trainer, awesome entrepreneur, just even better person. And so it's been wonderful working with you this past year. And so
Yes.
we'll have to do another one of these check in calls like
Yeah.
soon. And
The
here when you
then the
find,
next
you
goal is gonna be
50.
the next goal will
Yeah.
be 60Ks.
I was saying, then we get to 100, and then it's got to be 200, and yeah, list goes on and on. All right, but listen, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.